We're about to read more of Drukhari Codex. And, of course, I hope you get a good sleep. The Rise to Power. The depraved aristocracy of Gomorrah, whose noble houses had given rise to power through the various pleasure cults, are not the sole lords of the Dark City. Their complex web of intrigue, assassinations, gruesome commerce, and debauched entertainments is held together by the supreme will of the living muse, Asdrubal Vecht. The most powerful individual in all of Drukhari society has countless epithets. The Lord of Darkness, the Supreme Overlord of Gomorrah, the Living Muse, the upstart filthling. Asdrubal Vecht is the hand that moves the pieces in the insane geometrics of conspiracies, favors, and contracts that dominate Gomorrah. He is feared, despised, fawned on, and perhaps even revered by the shifting forces that control the City of Horrors as he sits at the peak of its hierarchy. Vecht soared to power over his fractious people several millennia after the fall. It is said that he was merely a warrior slave when Slanesh tore its way into being. Once a lowborn nothing sold to the pleasure cults for some abominable degradation, now he rules with both an iron fist and a hidden blade. Won his detractors and he realizes at their throats too late. Despite Vecht's self-asserted position of absolute power, Comorite society is far from centralized. The Supreme Overlord reigns over a splintered civilization of self-serving interests. These range from coordinated organizations to warring gangs that roam the fringes of society, and derelicts seeking survival at the Dark City's desolate outskirts. Gomorrah remains an incomprehensibly vast webway hub, and within its environs are renegades, criminals, and mercenaries from many cultures, not to mention the masses of captives from every corner of the galaxy. All of this rives under the boot of Vecht. Splintered power. The Lord of Darkness marshals the schemes of those below him, like the composer of a great work, upholding the autonomy of the city's entities while keeping them at each other's throats. Vecht both ensures that there are no threats to his power, and that the ruthless meritocracy of Gomorrah strengthens those within it. Whatever's one's stations in the Dark City, there is always a blade waiting in the dark, or a sheen of poison on the lips of a lover. Amongst the most powerful institutions of Gomorrah are the Cabals, each a kind of militaristic cartel or private army, such as Vecht's own Cabal of the Black Heart. These gang-like societies maintain their power via the real space raids their ruling Archons launch. The witch cults, meanwhile, stage incredible displays of gladiatorial debaucheries within immense arenas, feeding Comorite society with gory spectacles. In the bowels of the Dark City's pitch-black underworld, the homunculi covens practice their art of flesh sculpting, soul siphoning, and vile regeneration, their costly services always in high demand. Surrounding these three pillars of Gomorrah are mercenaries fulfilling subtler requirements. Through the striking of contrast between these factions, real space raids often contain uneasy allies, such as pacts evaporating once the spoils are divided. Gomorrah's Cabals. The Cabals of Gomorrah resemble pirate bands, noble households, and criminal cartels. Their numbers are made of sadists, slavers, torturers, murderers, and thieves. Cabals are in a state of constant conflict, their webs of alliances and rivalries ever shifting in Gomorrah's brutally meritocratic and labyrinthine political landscape. The Cabals form Comorog's primary military strength and the upper tiers of its hierarchy. It is from their real space raids that the majority of slaves are procured. Even the smallest of Cabals number hundreds of Drukhari, with territory spread over hideouts, safe houses, and other hidden locations. The largest have millions in their ranks, control large swathes of Comorog, and have galaxy-wide influence thanks to their endless stream of raids and rampant piracy. Order from Anarchy. In the murderous society of Comorog, Drukhari with aspirations for enormous power, which is the overwhelming majority, will easily make enemies and draw unwanted attention. This makes them vulnerable, and makes reaching the heights they wish to achieve almost impossible. Thus, most Drukhari wish to join a cabal. Though competition is fierce and the initiation rites extremely bloody, within a cabal there is the safety of numbers and a ladder of hierarchy they can climb. An attack on a warrior of a Cabalite is seen as an attack on them all, and so a modicum of order is maintained. Cabals will not make dangerous enemies unless they see their own position as being strong enough to withstand the potential fallout. This does not mean, however, that particular individuals in a rival cabal cannot or should not be eliminated. It just means that the way in which they are removed has to be more subtle. So, does this power structure incentivize murder by subterfuge and careful scheming? Due to the continuous stream of fresh recruits, the large quantity of a cabal's number that are outside Comorog on raids and the network of escape routes and secondary bases they employ, it is almost impossible to wipe out a cabal in its entirety. Only Asdrubal Vect has the power and influence to carry out such an action without triggering citywide outrage or a cascade of successive skirmishes. As the webs of cabal alliances declare war on each other in the aftermath. Nonetheless, Vect ensures that gang warfare remains rife throughout Comorag, claiming the weak and raising the strong. Cabals at war. Carrying out raids is the most important task for Cabalites and Cabals. Not only do they yield great bounties of slaves and offer feasts of agony to delight in, there is also immense personal and political prestige to be gained in returning to Comorog, having successfully planned and carried out a raid. By impressing their fellow Comorite citizens, a cabal asserts dominance over its rivals. Thus, the largest cabals are always raiding. Some may have scores or even hundreds happening simultaneously, attacking world after hapless world and winning political as well as military victories. In the same way that Cabalite Archons scheme to acquire power and outmaneuver their rivals, they plan their raids to meticulous detail. They torture existing slaves and employ scouts and mercenaries to acquire as much knowledge as possible of the world they intend to strike. They also pay the homunculi enormous sums for more esoteric means of surveillance, such as whisper-glass mirrors, flocks of invisible familiars, and parasitically invested abductees. Though costly, the rewards of a successful raid make the investment more than worth it. In battle, the Cabalites seek every advantage they can over the enemy, viewing concepts such as honor or valor as weaknesses to be exploited. They strike where the enemy is most vulnerable, and retreat where they encounter organized resistance, striking hard and fast to cripple command and control systems and to spread confusion and terror. Ambush, hit and run tactics and trickery are as much a part of their arsenal as advanced weapons, and they use them to its full effect. Witch cults. The inherent poise, grace, and athleticism of the Drukhari is raised to a high art in the numerous witch cults throughout Comorag. In fearless displays of sublime craft, these gladiatorial institutions entertain the powerful and influential denizens of the Dark City with lurid spectacles, providing a feast of agonies for their hungry-eyed audiences. The constant demand in Comorag for extreme experiences, exotic suffering, and passionate diversions to stave off crushing ennui, catastrophic civil war, and the gnawing void within the Drukhari's souls is catered for, to an extent, by the arenas of the witch cults. Most witch cults maintain at least one arena built into the lofty citadels and blade-headed ziggurat of their domains, in which nightly displays of violence are perpetrated with elegance and speed. To compare even the least of these arenas to the greatest of mankind's stadia is to compare a glittering palace to a mud hut. In some arenas, multi-level simulacra of alien cities, dense jungles, or countless evocative dioramas ring to the sound of bloodshed. Witches engage in battle with choice captives, monstrous beasts, or even each other to the bloodthirsty roars of those citizens wealthy or manipulative enough to buy a seat. Some areas are torrid in shape, encircling Comorag's highest pinnacles, and host lethally competitive death races of jet bike riding reavers. Other amphitheaters are laced with ingenious traps, or accommodate anti-grav tournaments of swooping killers. Some arenas even drift through the dark city, allowing galleries of clouds to follow skyboard-riding beastmasters and their packs of frightening cruel creatures as they hunt down terrified prey through Comorag's dark alleys. The diverse warriors known as Hekatari within the witch cults wield a wildly divergent array of exotic tools to maim, entrap, slash, and skewer. Vicious hooks, weighted flails, barbed meshes, and innumerable outlandish armaments requiring huge skill are employed to flaunt the user's finesse. They wear little in the way of armor. The defense is their speed and agility, displaying their arrogance as they dodge the clumsy blows of their foes. Any edge is grasped as they seek to outdo their rivals. The consumption of endless varieties of stimulants and combat drugs result in bursts of speed, heightened sensorial clarity, or stranger effects depending on which cocktail is in vogue. Beyond the arena, witch cults are thousand-strong societies of gladiatorial bloodletters. In addition to their arenas, they maintain vast training complexes, beast menageries, and exotic armories. Their terrifyingly graceful warriors typically revolve around a single, extremely deadly succubus, a star of the arena celebrated for her murderous skill. Beneath her are lesser succubi that may lead circles of several dozen witches. Almost every witch cult enjoys the patronage of a powerful archon. This arrangement ensures a cult rarely runs short of slaves or exotic elixirs, and that the archon gains the usually reliable allegiances of exceptional blade masters for their raids. When a witch cult with a strong reputation stages its own real space raid, other factions will pay handsomely for the privilege of fighting alongside them. Homunculus Covens. Comorag is a place of nightmare, and nothing encapsulates its ancient evil and inventive malice quite like the covens of the homunculi. These twisted fraternities of torturer alchemists practice vile arts of life and death from their lairs in the dark city's gnarled underworld. They are crucial to the Drukhari's continued survival, yet their grisly skills always come at a price. Homunculi are wizened monsters, geniuses of insane and unnatural technologies, and are universally feared by the rest of Commorragh. Though each pursues their own dark avenues of unspeakable science, every homunculus is a master artisan who offers a wealth of unpleasant services to those who can afford them. They deal in body modification, the distillation of potions and elixirs, and their extraction of screams from their victims and patients alike. Like-minded homunculi gather into covens that maintain sprawling territories of cells, laboratories, and chem distilleries among far more esoteric industries. Cavern-like voids, fields of bubbling vats, and Byzantine chambers no other Drukhari would ever wish to visit from the realms of many covens. Twisting corridors formed from still living subjects, with dim lamps set into the occasional empty eye socket, lead to grim abattoirs and racks of viscera splattered torment slabs. To cross these ancient flesh crafters is not only to risk an extended stay in their oubliettes of pain, held down and carved apart by their personal retinues of surgically augmented racks, it is to risk the withholding of a homunculus's art when it is needed most, for they have the power over life and death. Damnation eternal. Though incredibly long-lived by human standards, Eldari are not immortal. To avoid death and the hunger that waits to claim their soul beyond, most Drukhari enter into a pact with one or more homunculi. The client voluntarily relinquishes a piece of their flesh, a finger, a flap of skin, or a whole limb. The original flesh is kept secure and fresh, and from it, the homunculus can regenerate the patron's entire body. Even a corpse that has been all but destroyed can be restored to its former glory. Many Drukhari put such a bargain off as long as they dare, for a coven's price is a permanent portion of their client's soul. Nevertheless, as Drukhari risk a violent death in the Dark City every day, and as even the most arrogant recognize their prey are not without primitive weapons, the homunculi are never short of customers. Drukhari raids strike hard and fast, seizing bounties of captives and venting their pain lust upon those they kill before slipping back into the webway. They bear away their own wounded or killed and deliver them to the homunculi, who set to work assisted by semi-sentient engines of pain, such as the Talos. Provided the ghastly process is enacted swiftly enough, and the Drukhari's strong spirit still resonates in what remains of their flesh, their animus will slowly regenerate along with their physical form. The key to this loathsome procedure, like so many aspects of Drukhari culture, is pain. The mortal remains of the Drukhari are sealed inside crystal-fronted prods, arrayed in feeding circles around the homunculus's torment slabs and torture racks. As the flesh crafters peel apart suitable victims beneath, the semi-cocoon Drukhari within the casket are saturated with the writhing captive's agony and screams, drinking in the suffering. If they absorb enough over such torturous sessions, their red and raw forms, grimacing and leering, form within the caskets as they consume every shred of fevered pain. Then their bones, sinew, gelatinous viscera, bloody flesh, and finally pallid skin eventually regrow. Dark experimenters. By granting this form of hideous immortality, the homunculus covens grow immensely wealthy and powerful, capable of demanding the superior spoils of raids. Despite their private obsessions, Homunculi relish the opportunity to exhibit their talents in person, sometimes performing their own raids as grim experiments of their creations. With ghoulish curiosity, they unleash cells of their servile apprentice rags and packs of grossly swollen grotesques, eager to test their master's latest psychotorture devices or venomous concoctions. Cabal of the Black Heart, Vex's will made manifest. The Cabal of the Black Heart is Asdrubal Vex's military arm and the enforcer of his will. It is the oldest and greatest cabal of its kind, formed by Vex himself during his meteoric rise to power to become supreme overlord of the Dark City. The rise of Vex. For millennia after the fall, there were but a handful of noble houses that dominated the Dark City of Commorragh. It was their exclusive realm, and they slaughtered with impunity any who threatened their domination. The entirety of the city was utterly stagnant, overflowing with corruption and elitism. When Asdrubal Vex rose, he changed everything. Vex is rumored to originate from Commorragh's slave caste. As a result, the nobility underestimated him time and time again as he ascended through Commorragh's ranks. In secret, his group, the Cult of the Black Heart, inserted agents into every noble household. As his influence grew, so did the size of his following. Careful to appear at all times removed from the deeds committed by his followers, and determined that no rival should have a negative claim against him, Vex never had blood on his hands. His agents carried out the necessary blade work, and laced the correct meals and beverages with poison to smooth their lord's ascension. Vex could not permit the noble houses to ally together against him. He renamed his followers the Cabal of the Black Heart, and they, in turn, named him Supreme Overlord. Blinded by their own arrogance, most of Commorragh's nobility did not see what Vex was doing, the power that he was accruing, until they were helpless to stop it. Thus, those nobles and other criminal groups that remained intact after Vex rose adopted the Cabal structure to survive. Vex's own Cabal. The Cabal of the Black Heart is a sprawling organization, so vast that it supports numerous rival archons, all with their own factions, gangs, and agendas. Whilst all vie for Vex's patronage, competition almost never results in murder, but the Supreme Overlord does not look kindly on those who damage, break, or destroy his tools. In addition, these archons, immensely powerful and fear-inducing individuals in their own right, only dare to challenge Vex in their remotest fantasies. Even this they indulge in with great risk, for it is rumored that, to Vex, treachery is a stench that pours off those who pose a threat. With millions upon millions of Drukhari in the Cabal, the sheer might of the Black Heart makes it ostensibly invincible. It would take an alliance of many of the greatest Cabals to even match their numbers of warriors, something that, due to Commorragh's merciless politics, is far from likely. Thanks to the incredible power of the Cabal, as well as the inherent status that comes from being the Supreme Overlord's personal army, the Black Heart is able to operate more as a unified whole than can any institution in Commorragh. Vex's lesser archons inspire the kind of apparent widespread loyalty no other overlord can count on. If this military might was not great enough for the Cabal to assert total dominance over all of Commorragh, it has also formed a pact with the Cult of Strife, further strengthening Vex's position. The Cabal of the Black Heart employs an army of spies and agents to serve at Vex's behest, its informers' dwellings within every stratum of Commorragh society. Archons claiming to be acting independently have formed agreements with competing homunculi to provide the Cabal with information that can be compared and correlated for veracity. From the secrets of excruciated prisoners to details of the pacts different covens have made and even acknowledged of the greatest works, there are some ancient homunculi who privately worry Veg's minions seek to render their arcane brotherhoods irrelevant. The Black Heart has even secreted agents into the wider Eldari race, aboard craft worlds of the Asunari, amongst the Yanari and on Exodite worlds, and some have successfully infiltrated Harlequin masks. Thus, Vect and his Cabalites are always multiple steps ahead of their rivals, and no action against the Black Heart is too small for him to take notice. The Supreme Overlord underestimates no one, and knows a threat can come from any corner. This colossal spy network also means that any raids carried out in Vec's name by his Archons are done under his scrutiny. Every Archon knows their actions are being judged, and that the Supreme Overlord will have devised contingency plans for every eventuality. On the other hand, should they fail in any other way, they will undoubtedly incur his wrath. Knowing that Vect could be displeased is a very powerful motivator for the Archons of the Black Heart. As a result, they carry out their devastating raids with lethal precision and bring back vast numbers of slaves to appease the Supreme Overlord. The Eternal Cycle. Asdrubal Vect is what is known in Drukhari society as half-born. Due to the Eldari race's long gestation period, artificially grown Drukhari are far more commonplace. This process is done by implanting a fertilized egg into one of the amniotic tubes that honeycomb the breeding walls of the homunculized layers. Using a repulsive insectile science developed many millennia ago, the embryo's growth can be hyper-accelerated within these tubes, each newly grown specimen wriggling from its chrysalis sac in a drizzle of fluids before being taken away by rack attendants. These half-born are viewed with contempt by the rarer true-born Drukhari, who believe them to be inherently inferior. Good night, guys. I hope you get a good sleep.